Hi there, it is Steph Thompson here from the PodcastExpert Lab. I'm just about to jump on the Online Prosperity Show with Prosper. Very excited. Today you're going to hear not only my condensed version of a life story, but why it could matter to you as a podcaster listening right now who's looking to monetize their show.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, your premium destination for exclusive insights into today's most compelling themes. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we're going to be diving into the transformative world of podcasting with none other than Stephanie Thompson. Now, Stephanie, how are you doing today?
Amazing. I'm so excited to be here and share everything we've got.
Absolutely. Start with that pink jacket. I'm so jealous.
It's not usually a color I wear. I am a black, dark person. I love all dark clothes to be comfortable, right? You don't have to overthink it. But today I just was watching all of your episodes. I was like, you know what? This is a bright, cheery conversation that's going to happen. So I really need to match the vibe. I hope I hit the mark.
Absolutely. Well, that's why I was saying I wish I had a matching shirt, because then that would have been so fun for the podcast. But then obviously for those that are listening right now, they're not going to be able to enjoy the glory. So let me not bother them with details. But thank you so much for those that are tuning in. I want you to maybe imagine having to start your career as an apprentice chef at the Hilton, only to discover that, do you know what? The very thing that you're there for is something you're not a fan of. You're not a fan of cooking. So fast forward, and now leading now becoming a leader in the podcast realm, and especially in podcast partnerships. That's our guest for you today. And Stephanie's journey from the kitchen to the podcasting arena is nothing short of inspiring. She's the founder of Expert Lab, PodXL. I like that. Podcast Expert Lab, where she empowers podcasters to launch swiftly and monetize effectively through strategic brand partnerships. Now, with over 2 decades of leadership and coaching experience, she's collaborated with major brands like Toyota, Huggies, and I was trying to say this earlier on, but M.E.D.I.A body. Yeah.
M.E.D.I.A, you got it.
Body. Yep. And she is obviously providing and proving that a massive audience isn't a prerequisite for high-level deals. So in this episode, we're going to be exploring Stephanie's unique path and also the challenges that she overcame and the innovative strategies that she employs to turn podcasts into profitable ventures. So whether you're a budding podcaster or you're a seasoned professional, Stephanie's insights definitely promise to be both enlightening and actionable, because I know for sure, running a podcast is not an easy endeavor. You're going to obviously need to get it funded and to also get the right people to be backing the content that you're putting out there. So it's really, really, exciting to have Stephanie on the show. But Steph, I mean, obviously Hilton wasn't your place. Do you still at least make pancakes for the kids at home?
Nope. I despise cooking. I hate it. Do you know where they are right now? The family's going to get takeout.
Wow. Right.
I don't know how the planet provided me with the opportunity to be an apprentice chef at the Hilton Hotel for me to then really do a full 180 and run from the kitchen as fast as I can and never want to go back.
Oh, right. Was it the experience there, or was it just the actual putting ingredients into a pan and maybe whisking up a Michelin star meal?
Well, how about we let the audience decide on this one? You tell me. I was 17, finished my high school certificate, had to drive an hour there and an hour back with 15 French-speaking middle-aged men who really didn't appreciate young women, let alone young women in their kitchen. So yeah, it was definitely an experience that I didn't feel ever I was cut out for. And so I made the decision to leave, much to the disgust of my entire family. But it was the right decision.
Well, I mean, obviously, based on what you've just said, driving an hour to work and an hour back, that'll already make somebody not like that whole commute. And then let alone the fact that there was these men in the, in the kitchen.
No
I've worked
females.
in the kitchen. I've worked in the kitchen before, and it's like tradies, but dealing with food, isn't it? And it's just
it's aggressive, it's messy, it's loud, it's all the things that, and we're not talking like driving an hour in, normal roads. It was bumper to bumper traffic, it was night shifts, it was all the things that making me sound like I just couldn't handle it, little princess. But I'm pretty sure someone in HR was sitting back and laughing like, who could we get in this kitchen just for like, honestly, you look back and you zoom out, you're like, how did this little girl get a job here? It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense then, it doesn't make sense now. So hopefully it's changed since then, but I certainly haven't, and I still despise cooking.
Absolutely. So that was 17. Was that just you fishing out for a career path, or was it something that you maybe watched my kitchen rules and you thought, you know what, I think, Master Chef, and you thought, yeah, you know what, this is going to be me the rest of my life?
I think I was just desperate to find something. I didn't really have a great educational experience at school where I felt like, oh, I would love to do this, or I know I'm really good at that. And in actual fact, I probably wasn't very astute at anything at school except for hospitality, except for food technology. So I just felt it was the natural path to go down is something to do with food.
Fantastic. And you also alluded to the fact that your family was not pleased with your decision of not going back to the Hilton.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of expectations do they have on you?
You know what? I think because my sister's, she's 5 years older than me. She had already gone to university. She had a degree. She was very intelligent. She was, school captain and all of these things that probably parents really hope for their children. And I hadn't achieved any of that. And so I think they were concerned that if I was not doing something like an apprenticeship, well, then what? If I wasn't choosing the path of, university education or, secondary education, then what was I going to do? And they were probably just worried about me, I would say, from a place of love.
I can only imagine. I mean, obviously, if your sister is coming up with all these accolades and all you coming back with is, I'm not going to go there, but anyway, it's...
I got you. Working in fast food. So basically that was the alternative. My parents were concerned that my casual job during high school was going to be my career in a, fast food restaurant. And I get that. Now that I'm a parent, I now understand.
Oh, absolutely. See, now that you just say that, my little girl last year, when I asked her what she wanted to be for Halloween, she said she wanted to be a witch. So I'm hoping that's not going to be a career choice moving forward, okay?
Unless she can create the most imaginary magic potions for her life that gives her a magic life, then let her go.
Oh, yeah, those potions. Yeah, the ones that kind of make money. Those are the ones that...
Yeah, you got it. That's
fantastic. So you drove back home. And obviously, you went back home, and what did you do with yourself?
I went back to the fast food restaurant.
Right.
Because you still have to earn some type of money. You're hitting the age of wanting to socialize, etc.
Yes.
And so what actually ended up happening was my parents sat me down. They were very concerned. And I said, right, I've got the answer. I'm going to move to a tropical island in Queensland and I'm going to work there. And I did for an entire year. It was during that year that I was there, I met this beautiful mentor who we're still very best friends. She said to me, Stephanie, what are you going to do with your life? And it's funny how your parents can say that same thing and you get all offended. But then someone who you really love and trust says the same thing to you and you think, oh, hang on, I have to, am I not, this is my life. I love this island. I love being here. She's like, no, what are you going to go and do with your life? What are you going to go and create? That was the seed that was planted to go back to university to study education.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, when it's your parents, because they've been with you all your life, and half of the things you just think, yeah, they're just being annoying parents. But yeah, I can only imagine if it's somebody who then breaks the pattern of what you were going through. But at that particular moment, what was going on in your head? Did you think that was all that there was, especially when it came to you just being at that island?
I never had self-confidence. I never believed in myself. I never thought anyone else believed in me other than my parents, who were extremely biased because they loved me and they had to. But I never had someone else look at me and say, you could go back to university. You could go and do it now. It's not too late. You're only 19 now. You can do anything with this world. I was so lucky to have found her as a mentor and a friend to just open my eyes. And someone believed in me. And then I applied for university and so shocked that I even got in because I struggled at school so much academically. And so then going to university to become a teacher seemed a little bit ironic. Can you see a pattern here? Don't like cooking, working in a kitchen, not good at school, studying to be a teacher.
Oh no, I mean you never know. I'm putting together a case, I'll package it up for you a little bit later on. But I love the fact that you listened and you took action, because so many people wouldn't have. And just maybe just give us a glimpse of what this year looked like for you. Were you taking it out as a gap year, or were you just trying to figure out what you wanted to do at this particular island?
Both of those things. So yes, I was extremely lost. I was trying to figure out who I am, what am I going to do in life, but then also enjoying myself as a 19-year-old on a tropical island where people are holidaying and having an amazing time all the time. I was working there in hospitality, so that was the whole reason for going there. And then you soon realize a month on an island feels like a year. And a year feels like a lifetime, and you really can't stay forever unless you are staying forever. It's a fishbowl because you work with the people you socialize with, you live with the people who you work with and socialize with. Everyone knows everyone's business. So after a little while, that does get tiring, and lots of transient people, you can't make deeper connections with a lot of people. And so, yeah, it was time to come back. It was time to go to university. It was time to adult, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow. But the thing is, places like islands have some sort of an energy. And when you have exhausted that energy, even the people don't even feel like you know them or you want to be around them and things of that nature. But Steph, lay off the reality TV shows. Okay, so the Master Chef and now Survivor. It's just hang on a stranded island. That's no way for making life choices.
No, it's funny. I didn't even make the connection, but I got it. Yep.
Absolutely. So congratulations, you got accepted into
university
education. And how did we go with that?
Struggled big time. I was a struggling student because I'd never really written an essay of any quality before. Even though I had gone through an entire school system, I am pretty sure at some point someone may have realized I was dyslexic, but never really followed up with my parents because I would just fly under the radar, or I'd be getting in trouble for other things, for misbehavior. I don't think anyone ever stopped to think, okay, what is actually going on for this kid? And so even going through university, and then it was discovered that, okay, I have some literacy delays that I needed help with. The university were great in getting me that support, because you can't have a teacher that can't teach because she doesn't even understand the content herself, right?
Right, right.
So I had to do a lot of summer school, a lot of makeup. I was like catching up at university while trying to also get new content. It was, yeah, it was pretty tough.
Oh, I can only imagine. And what was the situation there? Did that also then provide the sort of freedom that you were looking for while you're doing the study? Because so many people, when they go to university, it's also yet another place where they find their feet and grow in the process.
Yes. I think that growth probably happened more interpersonally.
Right.
And by that I mean, I don't think university really taught you how to be a teacher. It taught you how to survive under an immense amount of pressure. Because yes, you're living on very little money, sometimes out of home, sometimes still with your parents at that age, and it doesn't quite feel right. Having to pay for everything myself and self-fund university, work around scheduling, all the things. That's why I think university is more about helping you become a resilient human and having to learn that people don't spoon feed you everything. You actually have to get off your butt and go and do things that make you feel uncomfortable and that are really difficult and hard, and admit that you don't understand things. Once you let that ego go and you do graduate, it's even more of a win. It was for me. It's like, wow. I know that my family were probably thought, wow, she actually finished. My gosh.
Oh, wow. Absolutely. Now, obviously, with that disappointment from you having dropped out of the Hilton, apprenticeship, what was their experience with you at graduation?
Oh, they're elated. They were, and like I said, I think that they were thinking, wow, we're here. We're actually at the graduation. Because to be fair, many times during the 4 years of study, I wanted to leave. It was really hard. I wasn't keeping up with the work. I wasn't coping. I wasn't, a relationship breakup halfway through made me think like that was the end of the world. And yeah, it really just kind of made it a big, and I moved out of home at that point. So so a lot of things happened during those 20s that were, I hate the word life-changing, Prosper, because everyone has life-changing experiences, but it probably made the baseline of who I am now to say, no, that's not okay. You need to actually dig deeper. You can't let people just come and rescue you all the time. You have to get on your own 2 feet.
Now, when that had all happened and you started working, what were the first days in the classroom like?
Okay, so there was not another gap here, but it just so happened that very organically I went from university graduation straight into child protection, actually. I didn't go to the classroom for another 2 years. I kind of fell into child protection and then found out I really loved it in a way that it was different from school and classroom, but the impact was even greater at that point, because we're really talking about the most vulnerable community of young children who are being abused and going through horrible things. In retrospect, looking back, as a 22-year-old, I was way too young for that position. Even though I went in with all of my might and energy and learning, I was older than most of the parents of the children who I was working with. So they were very young parents, but I had no experience as a parent or even as a woman who has worked with children. Literally, I went to university, I did practical experience, but I'd never actually been solely responsible for a group of children or my children ever. So the challenges that came with that, obviously, as you can imagine, being child protection, I knew at some point there too, I was like, okay, and I again had a beautiful mentor, and she said to me, if you don't leave now, you will be stuck here like me in your 60s, still working this same job, probably an alcoholic because it's too much. You need to go and have some positive experiences in your life with children before you come back to this. This is dark work. And so I took that advice and I did. I went to school, I did a casual day at school, and I didn't leave for 5 years from that school.
Fantastic. And I quite like how strategic the mentors have been placed on your journey, because there was that mentor that told you to go back where you came from, at the island. And now you've got a mentor who's telling you,
go and live.
This wouldn't be something that you would go for. Is there, maybe looking at retrospect, is there a reason why you would take to these mentors? Because some people would have just kept going because this would have been the life choice at that particular time. But the fact that these people came about and say these things to you, and that creates the pivot moment, it's just really interesting to take note on things like that.
I think to answer that honestly, probably because I had zero confidence in who I was as a person. I looked up to people a lot. I saw everyone as a mentor, and I was a very thirsty learner because I had issues with my own learning styles. I had to work twice as hard to understand what people were saying and doing so I could comprehend something. So it's almost like I would do a quick study cheat sheet before a meeting, just so when they started talking to me about these terms, I could clock it and say, oh, I know what they're talking about now. Right. And so I always looked up to those who could see that in me. And they're the ones who were like, oh, Stephanie, she works so hard, because they could see my thirst for feedback, for improving. I always wanted to be better.
Right.
Anyone who saw that little glimpse of magic in me, I took to them. And I think that's where that trust came in.
Absolutely, because so far they've been guiding you towards the path that you're supposed to be taking, and it's so beautiful to unfold, because some people would have had a mentor who takes them on a really dark path, and only to then have to work twice as hard to get to where they want to get to. So you left child protection, and obviously, like you said, started with school, and you did that for 5 years. Was that my understanding?
I did it in one school. So I went to go for one casual day, and I didn't leave until 5 years later. So I knew that the teaching path was the right path. I then went on to teach for 15 and 20 years as well after that day. Again, met a beautiful mentor within that school of the 5 years who we're still friends with, who encouraged me to really take that very first leadership step, to go out of the comfort zone of just doing what everyone else was doing. Most people, well, here's the path typically. Females, they go to school, they go to university, they study, they come out, they go back to school, and then they never leave until they retire. So for me to say, well, what else is there? Like, I'm always like, okay, so what else can we be doing here? She mentored me through being able to apply for leadership roles and to really push the boundaries in the classroom. For example, she said to me one day, because teachers get what they call like a 2-hour planning window a week. And instead of sitting in the staff room and chatting, I would go and watch her lessons. I would say, I want to learn from you. I want to watch what you do. No one had ever asked her that before, even though she was our mentor. So I would do things like that because I was like, I want to know, I want to see, I want to hear it. I want to, fully immerse myself in this learning. So again, she saw that little bit of magic that no one else was doing, and then helped me step forward into leadership. So from that school onwards, I went into executive roles and leadership roles until I finally finished education as a consultant.
Absolutely. And what were these sort of last years like in, if you could just bundle it up together?
Okay. I think teachers come out of university thinking they just can't wait to be in the classroom. After, I'm going to say the sweet spot, it used to be 7 years, but now I think it's more like 4 or 5, maybe even less. They can't wait to get out of the classroom. So they think the only natural progression is in leadership. Once you get into executive roles in a school, say, a principal role, you think, great, I made it. This is it. And then you look around and you realize, oh gosh, this is an admin job. I'm no longer working with children. I never get to see them because all I see is their parents. And honestly, it's a complaints hotline. That's all you do. You deal with parents complaining, teachers complaining about one another and parents, students complaining that nothing is ever right. Okay, we summed it up at the end of my career to say, Stephanie, stop trying to make water more wet.
Ooh.
Because that's what I was trying to improve things, and you'd bring in programs and then they would work, and then the department would say, no, you can't do that. There's no budget for that. It's a little bit too risky. It's this, it's that. And so you end up just on this loop of teaching the same thing, same content, odd year, even year, unhappy teachers, unhappy parents, unhappy students who are no longer really engaged in their learning. And it's not a position that you think it's going to be. It's not. It's really disappointing.
Absolutely. This weekend, Steph, I had to babysit 5 kids, 2 of my own, 2 of my brother-in-law, and another one of the brothers, because there was a family emergency and I was the only one that stayed at home.
Okay.
I feel your pain. I was with 5 kids for 2 hours. And I can only imagine having 15 kids in the classroom.
Yeah.
Yes, I was trying to get them to do stuff like paint or coloring or anything of that nature. But all they wanted to do was play with their phones or watch TV. And I can only imagine what it's like when they're at school.
I haven't been in the school system for 10 years officially. And so I was lucky because devices were not a huge thing. They were kind of a little bit as I was exiting. But now I don't know how teachers are doing. I take my hat off to any classroom teacher. My children go to school and I take my hat off to their teachers because I think they're getting more and more challenges with less and less support. That's my personal opinion.
Absolutely. So obviously when you realize, well, I'm not going to make this water any wetter, who did you call? What happened? Where did you go?
I was actually headhunted, and that's when I went into private schools and consultancy for a little while. I did that for 2 years until I became a mum. And my birthing experience meant that I wasn't able to go back to my full-time career because I had physical injuries from that has prevented me from being that person anymore. So it's probably, I know I can look back now and say I was blessed in the sense that I was in a career I wasn't loving and just kept doing this to try and move away and find out what it is that I did love about it, to becoming a mom and then everything shifting, not by choice, but by need. I then was mum and then started to realize that my experience, I was holding the trauma from that. And so I decided to write a book about it, thinking I would change childbirth for the world. And I was so proud of it. And we launched a successful story book. And then I realized, oh, hang on a minute. I didn't change childbirth. What happened? Why didn't that work? And then realizing very quickly that the book was really just the seed for the conversations that had to happen about childbirth that everyone was so taboo and not saying. Hence, the podcast journey started there. I thought to myself, well, I'll just go on TV and talk about it. But here's the thing, TV doesn't like talking about childbirth and female anatomy. It's still very no.
Right.
A podcast does not have that same level of restrictiveness, let's say, and we can have very open and honest conversations that are not tainted by guidelines and red tape.
Absolutely.
That's where the podcast, and then when you start talking to other people about what happened to you and you realize it wasn't just you and you're not alone, and you start to find your voice. You as a host would understand this. When you find your actual voice, you get to establish who you are and who you're not. And I think that podcasting journey was the making of me, of who I was all those years, but was so lost and so torn and didn't know how to express it. The podcast gave me the words to say the things that I never could say before.
You know what I like about that? All of this, and the reason why we took this path is because all of this was a journey. Mm-hmm. And had it not happened, you obviously would have had a microphone and nothing to say.
Yeah.
And exactly. I like how you say this happened for me, because now it's now given you, as you say, the words that literally showed up, because some people just really break a nail and maybe skip lunch and they think they already have content for a podcast. But you had a whole life story and a journey, which now obviously warrants, to be heard and to speak about, because, I mean, you then transitioned from education to advocacy, and you became
100%.
the voice of those that couldn't speak. Like you said, TV has no, platform, is not a real platform for these kind of things. But that presented a significant shift. You probably were pioneering all of this. What was that like?
I didn't know it at the time, honestly. I didn't know that I was pioneering. I didn't know I was being a voice for the voiceless. I was just doing it because, pardon me, I intuitively knew in my heart that what happened to me in childbirth, there's no way I could allow it to happen to my girl Elsie. So I was charged to do everything in my power to bang the drum and to make sure and to, even make people feel a little bit scared. Not the women who were pregnant, let's just get that right, but the people who are charged for caring for those women, because we know when people feel fear, they take action. We know what happened in COVID. People were fearful, they did things. If we make childbirth and we make the policy and decision makers not feel scared at all, then nothing is ever going to change. When I discovered that what happened to me in my birth is so common and the injuries that I suffered happen a lot, I couldn't believe it. I felt very blindsided. I thought, wow, I'm an educated woman. I did all the birthing classes. I knew what I was doing. How can this happen? And then when you find out it's not just you, you're like, oh, I think we're onto something here. And so I knew I couldn't stop until something changed. And thankfully last year, the New South Wales childbirth trauma inquiry happened and people started taking action. So I felt like all of this was my life purpose. All of it. The whole thing. Absolutely. Right?
Well, congratulations on that sort of front. Now, knowing that you were going to embark on this, did you have any support from those that were around you? And did any of your usual mentors pop up this time around to tell you,
Well, actually, it's like I almost need to write a book about my mentor journey, because we met our mutual friend, Andrew Griffiths, who I think introduced us. Yes. He helped me write my book because he usually works with people who write business books. He had no idea of the impact he could have on me, and neither did I. That book was so cathartic and healing that it led to me meeting another mentor, Katrina McCarter, who helps me with the podcast, because I had 2 kids under 2. I couldn't manage all the moving pieces. Podcasting is intense. I needed to pay a producer. It's the only way it could continue, but didn't have the funds at the time. Did a partnership course with Katrina, and then I was able to really kind of take the bull by the horns and say, right, if I can pull this off once, twice, 3 times, it's no longer just luck, it's a thing. So I was able to take that strategy that I did myself, rinse and repeat over and over, have a very successful podcast. And then I had people started asking me, how did you work with Huggies? How did you work with Toyota? However. And so I just started sharing it because the educator in me wants to help people. We want to see light bulb moments. That's what lights me up, is when I can see people go, oh, is it that? It's not that hard. Like, oh, no, it's not that hard. Like, if I can get it, you can get it. If I can do it, you can do it. And so that's how this whole Podcast Expert Lab has just formed. And it's how I hate the word organically, but it really has. It's been something that has just evolved very naturally. And I feel like right now, I've really come into my own. I've got a little bit of this and a little bit of that. All of my careers all come together to help people. And that's what I love.
Absolutely. And I also love it when a story comes full circle, because so many people go on journeys only to find that which was already inside of them. But they would have had to go through certain things in order for them to then document that journey. And for those that are watching right now, I mean, obviously, no matter what you're going through in life or whatever is going on, just pay really close attention to what's happening, because one day you'll have a good story to tell on the Online Prosperity Show. But Steph, as you mentioned, it's about finding your identity, and it's about showing up. Brands don't just rock up to somebody who hasn't arrived. You know what I mean? You're working with household brands like Toyota and Huggies, and that's pretty much, impressive. How did you, first of all, establish these partnerships with that massive audience?
Okay. So it didn't start with the big boys. Obviously, it starts with the smaller partnerships, and then you gain momentum. So you start with a baseline, and potentially how we teach it now to creators as well, especially small and beginning creators. And I'd love to go back on something you said at the very beginning. You don't need a big audience. We have launched and partnered so many podcasts right now with 0 downloads because we do it before they've even launched. The conversations with brands then change because brands and influencer marketing people within those brands always say to a podcaster, well, tell me your downloads. Everyone's the D word. If you haven't launched yet, you have an ability to have a different conversation, because a brand will say, oh, that's not a high enough download rate. We're not going to continue this conversation. If you can say, I have a really highly engaged niche audience over here, this is who they are, this is what they need, this is how you can help them, you create that story arc between the brand and your audience, because guess what? They too are trying to reach those exact same people. You and your podcast become the conduit that connects those two things together. And when you can pitch that, for a better word, brands start to listen differently. And that's how we did it first off. We only had a small community on Instagram and a private Facebook group. I'm talking under 1,000 people. The first partnership that we did helped grow that audience at the same time, because the things that we did were of equal value. So while we did an ad within our podcast show, they also supported it on their own socials, and they had a much larger audience. So everyone gets to win. As soon as we put on the word sponsorship, everyone always goes, oh, but can you get me a sponsor for my podcast? That's not what we do. We only work in partnership where, you have to show up. You have to do some work. You have to know who your audience is. As you said, you have to have arrived to know your show and know your audience before you can start those conversations, instead of, oh, sponsor my show. This is what I do. This is me. Everyone's done that to death. And that's why people are not getting their pitches heard or their emails answered, because it's being done so much.
Absolutely. Now, what your whole life just throws the rule book away, like
yeah. Rebel.
Pretty much. Well, I think if George Costanza was here, he'd be like, we're living in society,
I love it. It's right.
Absolutely. But I feel like you're emphasizing that success is not linear, and it's not about playing by some sort of rule book or whatever it is. It's just really stepping into your space, and when you find your story, your voice, and you just stick to it like a dog on a bone.
Yeah, and you know what? This is why I love our branding for our podcast is called Brave Mama, because to be brave, in my opinion, is to feel scared to do something, like quit a job at the Hilton, go to university when you're dyslexic to be a teacher, become a teacher, but then don't start in a classroom, and then go into leadership very young and probably a bit underqualified, and then say no to things that are not working for you. But to be scared and do it anyway is the exact description of what brave means to me. And I would encourage anyone who's listening or watching this, that if there's something that scares you a little bit, and you've probably heard Andrew say this as well, I'm going to borrow it from him. If it doesn't scare you, you're not thinking big enough. I've lived by that since I met him 5 years ago. And now I was probably doing it a little bit anyway, not very consciously. But now if I feel scared about something, I think, good, I'm on the right track.
Absolutely. Please don't tell him this. See how far I'm reaching? Okay.
Yes.
Just across from me, there's a little cutout of
He's gonna love that. That is so cool.
And is showing me his book that says someone has to be the most expensive. And it's one of those things that, he always says, if it's not scaring you and things of that nature. But what I love about all of this, Steph, is, obviously we could talk and put it all together, creating a very good show out of it. But you've had to live with one of the biggest challenges when it comes to living in the world we live in today, where things have to be read, things have to be written, and you have to sort of show up at some sort of point. And this stuff of having to tick some boxes and have things checked out, it does present with itself daily challenges. How has this sort of condition sort of influenced your maybe approach to business and now mentorship?
By that, just to qualify, you're meaning the dyslexia, right? That's what we're talking about.
That's
okay.
Where I'm going.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Just to qualify. So on top of that, I know every second woman is now saying they also have ADHD. I have not been diagnosed officially. I'm not even sure if I want to go down that path, but every post I see on socials from ADHD experts, I also resonate with that too. But I don't know if it's just the masking of not understanding academically straight away that I have to kind of do the duck underwater. I'm like, okay, I'm getting it. That's what makes me busy. That's what makes me very agile and very fleeting all the time, because I'm trying to clock what everyone's saying, doing in the background, so that when you and I are reading something or we're doing something, I can say, yeah, I've got this. I've got it. I think in the daily life, podcasting has given me the freedom because I can speak. No problem. I don't have to write. I don't have to read. I can read and write. Let's just I need to clarify that now. The help I got at university was life-changing.
Right.
So it's obviously then, since to be able to write a book and, become an academic and a consultant, the learning that I had to do in that journey was quite unique. The thing is, I never stopped learning. every day. So it was my mentor in Queensland that said, you need a book to learn a new word every day, to expand your vocabulary, to, increase your brain capacity and intellect. And I still do that. 25 years later from meeting her, I'm still looking up a new word every day. What's the word of the day? What's the word of the week? And I teach that to my children too, so that they never get left behind or feel like they don't understand things. They get to create their own world of understanding and loving language and not having to be scared of it. So the thing that's helped me the most, and it might activate a lot of people here, is AI. So for someone who struggles reading condensed things and comprehending it, like I have to read it 10 times. That's my workaround. If you send me a document, I need extra long to be able to say, yes, I get this. AI has expedited that process for me, and especially with reading and Grammarly and all the things that help with spelling and letter reversals and things like that, I think is what's got me through. I'm embracing it. I'm using it. It's meaning that I'm actually being able to get through things at a much less energy output. So not so much faster in time, but I'm not having to reread 5 emails before I send it to you to make sure there's no spelling errors.
Fantastic. Now, the reason why I asked you this question is so many people stop themselves before they even start. And especially when it comes to creating content or creating a podcast like you have. And see, none of that has gone in your way. Book, check. Everything else that needs to come along with that, the podcasts and things of that nature. Is there something that you can maybe say, or you've already mentioned the podcast thing, but is there something that you can say to encourage those people that might be stopping in their tracks just because they feel like this might not be the thing for them? Knowing what you know now about your journey.
You think because they're too scared to take a risk and get it wrong?
Yeah, absolutely.
And make a mistake?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like I missed a big point of the story, which I think is going to be helpful to the listeners, because rather than me say, be brave, be scared, and do it anyway, that sounds really easy. In my mid-20s, 27, 26, I went to the doctor because I wasn't falling pregnant. I really wanted to have a baby back then. I wanted 6 kids. I wanted a big family. I basically left that appointment in saying, she said, just hold off on the pregnancy vitamins and things. I need to run some tests. Within a week, I was diagnosed with cancer. So those life-changing moments make you stop that hesitation of what if this is wrong? Because now I have nothing to lose. And if I didn't put that in, it wouldn't make sense to people as to why I don't care what other people think anymore as much.
Well, that then writes itself because, and have we
full remission? Yeah. This was like 20. Well, I had to do the math because also when you go through cancer, you lose a few years, so you actually forget how old you are. So it's 20 years ago that it happened, and so I think that it's like these little taps on the shoulder. Life just says, hang on a minute. When you go through something like that, like such adversity, you come through the other side a different person. That has happened a few times in my life, especially when my daughter was born and that birth injury. Again, when my son was born a few years later and I had another tumor, those moments make you say, okay, you have nothing to lose today. If you send this email to Prosper and there's a spelling error, so what? Okay.
Was there a spelling error?
Yeah, probably. I couldn't tell you because I couldn't pick it up. This is what happens when I read things. I read them correctly. I omit errors, but this is why I have an editor. This is why I now use AI before I send anything to make me feel more confident. So I think that's the missing piece. That's what I would say to your audience right now. Don't wait for the life tap on your shoulder to almost die to figure out that you can do anything that you want right now.
Absolutely. And I mean, your journey has just been filled with all these unexpected pivots, and you've been able to stay adaptable and really open to new opportunities, and you've embraced them as they come in, whether you had an audience or not, whether you know what I mean, and things of that nature. Now, somebody might be hearing about you or your story for the very first time. I mean, obviously, because you don't have a big audience, so yeah, somebody's bound to be meeting you for the first time. um what where would they go, and what can they do to learn a little bit more about your journey? That way they can see how, first of all, they can get supported with the work that you're doing, or actually become a client.
Okay. So I think most people here would probably be podcasters and business owners, and that's where I'm going to be able to help people the most now. So
Right.
if you were listening to this and you're a podcaster needing to monetize your show through partnerships and you don't even know where to start, book a 15-minute free fit call with me and let's pencil out that what that could look like for you. That's at podcastexpertlab.com. They can easily go and find the link. I'm pretty sure you'll pop it in the show notes. Or even if they have a question, they just want to jump on a 15-minute call and say, this is where I'm at with my show. This is where I'd like to go. What's my next step? What's my next move?
Absolutely. I'll definitely make sure that all those links are in the show notes below so that people can actually get started on this journey. Now, you've introduced us to so many mentors and so many things that have happened in your life, and so many lessons, because I visually believe in life we're here to live, to learn, and to contribute. So in order for us to live our best lives, we need to learn, and some of the lessons we learn from other people, and some of the lessons we learn from what we're doing. And you're now at a phase in your life where you're contributing and actually sending the elevator down for others who also might be finding it difficult to get started with their with their podcasts and things of that nature. I kind of feel like you've also then assumed the role of a mentor who you've always gravitated towards, and I feel like so many people will be following on your footsteps and your journey.
I hope so, because I love helping people and I love seeing them get lit up about what they do and say, oh, wow, is that it? Is that all I have to do? Okay, I can do that. They just need to have the will to want to try. Thank you. That's a beautiful thing to say. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Well, now that you've drawn us into your world unwillingly, I mean, I was busy doing what I was doing, but you showed up. Now, what's next? What are we to anticipate that you're going to be doing next?
Now we're starting to work with brands. So brands are working out that they are done with influence. Well, sorry, I'm going to take that back. They're not done with influencer marketing. They know it can hit the mark for a lot of people who have a huge audience. They also are starting to learn that they can have a greater impact and a deeper return on investment should they choose to work with smaller creators who are much more connected to their audience. Think about this. Kim Kardashian, she couldn't name one person in her audience. No. Mary down the road could name her 50 people. She could probably call them. She could probably tell them something. So they're starting to see there is value in micro and nano influencers. And when I say influencer, I don't like the word. We prefer, if you're doing podcast partnerships, to really be kind of calling like an advocate, like you said.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I hear you, because so many people just spray and pray with their podcasts and there's not that much direction. We started talking about a mutual friend who, Andrew, and I just reached out and I'm like, look, I've got his photo on here. And that's how, everybody knows everybody in the small sort of networks and communities. And I can imagine how that will be of influence to brands that are seeking to really have a conversation with their audiences and stuff like that. Fantastic. Now, Steph, I mean, I can't thank you enough for the time that you spend with me on the call today. I mean, your life story and your experience have so much value for everyone that I think is listening to this part of the podcast right now, because the journey that you went through, you just didn't accept it like everybody else who just goes through the motions. No, you were picking and choosing what worked for you, what worked you kept, and what didn't you ditched. Somebody would have killed to work at a Hilton, but that wasn't for you.
I appreciate you saying that, and thank you for having me on. I hope everyone did get value. We've just kind of scratched the surface, so definitely reach out if you're even book writing and things like that. You and I can put people on the right path and connect them to Andrew. This is what we're here to do, is to network.
Absolutely. I really, really appreciate that, and I appreciate the journey that you took. I mean, from the kitchen to now cooking up partnerships. See, it's still in the same.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to use that. It's awesome. Thank you, Prosper. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I think your success really underscores the power of adaptability and resilience, and using what you have, mentors, tools, and resources that are abound. Because some people just maybe recline into themselves and they just think whatever they're doing is all right. And there's this statement that I've heard so much here in Australia. Oh, she'll be all right, mate. No, she won't.
Get yourself a coach, get yourself a mentor, work with Prosper, work with me, work with someone who you align with. Don't try and figure it all out yourself. Let someone help you.
Absolutely. And if this story resonated with you, I want you to consider going to the links that we're going to be putting below, so that you can connect with Steph. And also, if you know somebody who's trying to get their podcast off the ground and they've been struggling to maybe obviously run the operations of it, get them to speak to Steph. She might have a partnership in the workings for them, and hopefully their message can actually impact and help others do and have a happier existence. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring content like this, because in our next episode, I've been told we're going to be exploring ideas that enhance your happiness and well-being. Until next time, bye for now.